A young man with a gift for reading people finds himself caught between two worlds, one rooted in youthful love, the other in a soul-deep connection he never saw coming. As fate weaves an unexpected web between hearts, Jay is forced to make the boldest decision of his life. Sit back, breathe it in, and enjoy this gripping, emotional journey of love, timing, and truth. Jay worked a variety of jobs while putting himself through college, but he started as a sales associate at a local grocery store. Everyone knew his name. He was the fun guy, always full of life. Somehow he had a personal connection with nearly all his regulars. He knew their struggles, listened without judgment, and genuinely cared. Jay had a knack for knowing exactly what each customer needed. The most affordable product, the perfect family-size pack, or the item with the longest shelf life. Whether someone preferred bulk or needed something long-lasting without risking expiration, Jay had them covered. He could read people effortlessly, from their accessories, fashion choices, or just some unspoken vibe. Naturally, customers preferred shopping at the store where Jay worked. It wasn't just about groceries. It was the experience he created. One thing about being the go-to guy is that everyone expects you to have all the answers. They come to you with their problems, assuming you've got life figured out. No one ever stops to think that you might have problems of your own. Jay took a part-time job bartending on days he didn't have classes, and once again he became that guy, the go-to for the college baddies and gents. He knew what to serve before you even asked, and he knew you'd like it. One look, a brief introduction, and he could read your palate like a menu. "Hey Jay, fix me something." "Jay, hook my boys up with something nice." "Yo, meet Jay. He knows exactly what you need. Trust me. This guy's good." But Jay was never really anyone's guy. Sometimes he wondered if they even knew his real name was Jaden. "I doubt that," he'd mutter to himself. Night after night, he listened to the same drunken rants from tipsy Barbies, the loud roars from overconfident frat boys. Every day felt like a loop. Nothing new, nothing different, until one night. He was wiping down the sticky bar top when a voice called out, "Hey Jay, can I get a drink?" He looked up. She had brown skin, brown eyes, a kind of beauty that didn't try too hard. If Barbie were mixed race, maybe this was her. Maybe Disney had it all wrong. Jay froze. He'd never felt this before. Usually, he could read people instantly, tune in to their vibe like a radio station. But her frequency was everywhere and nowhere. Static. He stared, unsure. For once, he didn't say, "I know just what you need." She smirked. "Aren't you the guy who reads people's taste buds? Well, what do I like?" He blinked, gathering himself. "You're my toughest customer yet. Honestly, I'm getting mixed signals. At first glance, you seem like someone who'd go for a cocktail with layers of flavor, something that dances on the tongue. But when I block out the noise and listen to the quiet, steady wave underneath, I'd say you like it simple. Sparkling, classic, very typical of a Cancer," she added with a grin. Her brows raised. "How'd you know?" He glanced at her top quickly. "If you can guess the exact day of my birthday, the drink's on the house," she grinned. "July 10th. His eyes widened. "How'd you—" "First, you've got this empathy thing that's very Cancer-like. I'm not big on astrology, but I wanted to know more about you, and it worked. And second," she pointed to her top, "don't think I didn't catch you staring at the 10. Jay laughed. "Well, you've earned that drink." "Damn right I have. I'm Kessie." They both chuckled, and suddenly the static made sense. No wonder he couldn't read her. She wasn't just another customer. There was something more, something deeper, something that made his heart beat a little faster, something he realized he needed more of. Days turned into weeks, and Jay and Kessie grew closer. He noticed she always carried a letter with her, always scribbling something down. One evening he asked, "Are you ever going to tell me what's up with those letters you're always writing?" Laughing, she replied, I was raised by a single mom, and growing up I often felt alone. Whenever I felt overwhelmed or sad, like I needed to scream but had no one to hear me, I started writing letters. I sent them to random addresses. Just poured my heart out, hoping someone would listen. She paused, then smiled. And some did. They actually wrote back. The world isn't as wicked as people think, Jay. Sometimes it's strangers who care the most. Something about what she said hit Jay deep. Maybe all this time he'd been waiting for people around him to care, searching in familiar places. But it only took one unexpected encounter with the right person to make him feel truly seen. Maybe there were more people like that out there, but the thought faded as quickly as it came, because right now the only person he needed was her. Then came the moment that shifted everything. "Jay," she said quietly, "I have to tell you, I'm going back to school." Reality came crashing in. Kessie was never a student at his college. She'd only been spending the summer visiting a friend. Jay knew that, but he never imagined how much it would hurt to hear her say she was leaving. They promised not to let go. They swore to keep in touch, but no one ever really prepares for the weight of distance. People think they're strong enough for it, that love alone can weather the storms. Jay kept texting, calling, sending long messages. Some were left unread, others weren't replied to at all. He understood. She was in med school, and her schedule was a whirlwind. But understanding didn't make it hurt any less. Watching a relationship that once lit up your world slowly fade into silence. That's not something you can ever be fully prepared for. Not when it was real, not when it mattered. Weeks of silence, scattered texts, and the growing weight of distance. It all became part of Jay's new normal. Communication with Kessie had grown patchy. Some days they talked, some days they didn't. Most days, it felt like talking to a memory. When the school session ended, Jay landed a gig as a sales rep for a new beverage brand entering the market. He took it part-time, alongside his job at the bar. The pay wasn't great, and sales were even worse. But the company gave him a tough target. The drink was marketed to everyone, kids to seniors ages 6 to 60. The idea was simple. With the right pitch, anyone would buy it. And Jay had that gift, the charm, the persuasive magic. But something about the product didn't sit right with him. After a few weeks, he began to notice troubling patterns. Kids who drank it became hyperactive. Some couldn't sleep. Older customers, especially those over 50, started showing signs of high blood pressure. Jay did his own digging and found out what he feared. The beverage had far more caffeine than advertised. He was crushed. Jay had always been an honest marketer. He prided himself on understanding people and giving them what they truly needed, not what made the company the most money. But now he was caught in a dilemma. He needed to hit his targets to afford tuition. Rent was looming. Life wasn't giving him the luxury of choosing between integrity and survival. With no one to confide in, the weight of it all pressed hard on his chest. Then he remembered Kessie, her letters, her way of letting go by writing. Jay didn't have a notebook or paper on him, but he had his phone, and more importantly, he had her name, her full name. He typed it in, added a few numbers randomly, like addressing a letter to the universe. And then he wrote. He poured his heart out about the drink, the guilt, the confusion, the ache of lying to strangers who trusted him, about how every sale felt like a betrayal of who he used to be. He didn't know if the message would go through or if anyone would ever read it. He just needed to let it out. And every time he stood in front of a customer, forced to choose between making a sale and speaking the truth, he would pull out his phone and write another message, always to that same made-up number under Kessie's name. Because sometimes healing isn't about being heard. Sometimes it's just about speaking. After days of pouring his heart into messages no one seemed to read, Jay stopped expecting a reply. Every evening after long hours at the bar and exhausting shifts at the mall, he would slump into bed, phone in hand, screen silent. Until one night. It had been an especially rough day. No sales, a difficult customer at the bar. His spirit was drained and his body barely holding up. Just as he was about to drift off, a soft beep pulled him back. A new message. He blinked at the screen. "Hey, Jay. Can't say I understand why your mind is so conflicted, but I'd really like to." His heart skipped. Someone was on the other end. Someone had read his message, and not just read, understood enough to want to understand more. That was all it took. From that night on, they exchanged message after message. No names, no expectations, no pressure to explain everything or make sense of it all. Just words, just presence. Jay didn't rely on reading their energy, their face, their tone. There were no waves to sense, no physical signals to decode. And maybe that was what made it so freeing. There was no performance, no pretending to be the guy who had it all figured out. For once, he didn't have to be Jay the bartender, Jay the salesperson, or even Jay the listener. He could just be Jay. And they, this stranger, could just be whoever they truly were. Neither of them tried to define it. They simply took each day as it came. And in that quiet, unseen connection, Jay found something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Her name was Emily. She said she was in her mid-40s, and while talking to strangers wasn't her usual habit, something about Jay's messages pulled her in. What started as a random reply soon became a daily exchange. Through their emails, Jay found a quiet kind of companionship, the kind that didn't ask for anything but truth. And for a while, he forgot about Kessie. Emily listened, really listened, and when Jay told her about his inner battle with the beverage company, she didn't hesitate. "Jay," she wrote, "you've always known how to match the right product with the right person. That's your gift. You may not be able to change the branding or how the company spins its message, but you can choose who you sell to. That integrity of yours, that's worth protecting." Those words hit deep. That was all Jay needed, a breakthrough, a reminder that he didn't have to lie to succeed, that he could do what he loved and still live by the truth. So he stopped trying to sell the drink to everyone. Instead, he paid attention, observed, listened. And then one night, inspiration struck. He tried mixing the beverage into a cocktail, a twist he came up with on a whim behind the bar. It worked. That night, the bar buzzed with energy. Students couldn't stop ordering it. He barely had to say a word. The drink spoke for itself. These were the right customers, college students full of energy, looking for something to keep them up all night, whether they were connecting with friends or grinding through study sessions. It wasn't for kids, it wasn't for older folks, it was for them. Word spread fast. He began selling the drink both inside the bar and on campus. Dorms, study halls, parties. Demand grew, and before he knew it, Jay had surpassed his sales target. And more importantly, he'd made enough to cover his tuition. He hadn't compromised. He'd just found the people who truly needed what he had to offer. And somewhere in the background of all this growth, Emily's quiet encouragement remained, like a soft light in the distance, reminding him who he was. Weeks passed before Kessie finally reached out. Her message was filled with vulnerability. She apologized for the silence and explained the overwhelming demands of medical school. She hadn't meant to shut him out. She was just barely staying afloat. Jay understood. Of course he did. That's who he was. They reconnected. The conversations were familiar, warm, even comforting. But something had changed. He didn't feel the same way anymore. That old spark, the one that made his heart race and his thoughts spiral, was gone. And in its place was a quiet clarity. He wasn't sure Kessie had ever truly felt the same way about him either. Jay had found something deeper, with Emily. She wasn't just someone who listened. She saw him. She reminded him of who he was when he was starting to forget. And though it seemed impossible, He was only 25, she was in her 40s. It didn't matter. He had to see her. So there he stood, heart pounding, at the door of a tall, elegant mansion, the kind of place that whispered wealth in every detail, the kind of place he never imagined himself walking into. And there she was, Emily, poised, graceful, and somehow even more beautiful in person. Jay froze, his hands stiff, his legs heavy. Doubts crashed into him all at once. Would she see him as just a broke college kid? A fleeting fascination? A young man with nothing to offer but intuition and heart? But then she smiled. That warm, knowing smile that had pulled him in from the very first email. They sat down to dinner. The table gleamed with polished silverware and candlelight. And then, with a calm voice, Emily said, "Jay, I'd like you to meet my daughter, Kessie." His world stopped. Kessie? Kessie. He looked up and there she was, standing at the doorway, eyes wide in disbelief. A slow realization crept over him like a chill. Of course, Kessie had once said, people are naturally drawn to birthday dates. That's what he had used when he first sent that email. Kessie's name and a random number, 23. Kessie's birthday. He hadn't meant to, but somehow the message had found its way. Not to Kessie, but to her mother. Emily must have been managing that email address for whatever reason, fate, chance, the universe. Who knows? And now here they were, 3 lives, tangled by letters and silence and coincidence. A thick, quiet tension filled the room. Emily looked between her daughter and Jay, and Kessie, slowly smiling, pulled out a chair across the table. She wasn't angry. She wasn't confused. She just knew. And Jay in that moment did too. Kessie had never truly been his. She had been a beautiful chapter, a moment in time. But Emily, she was the story he wanted to live in. With trembling courage, he reached across the table and gently placed his hand over Emily's. A pause, then he said, voice low and certain, "Emily, I love you. I'm not letting you go, and I'm willing to fight for us. No matter the odds, no matter my shortcomings." Silence, but not the awkward kind. The kind that speaks, the kind that marks a new beginning.